safe and removed. You never get hung up. Never.
I'm going to reading fiction from my book called Cheyenne Madonna, and it's from a longer story, so I'm going to have to excerpt it. So I'll just start off by saying the narrator has gotten into trouble on a New Mexico pueblo, trouble with the law. And I think that's about enough preface because it comes out in what I've selected to read. Okay, the book is called Cheyenne Madonna. The story is called Dear Shorty, and Shorty is his dad that he writes letters to. Not just from jail, but from all over wherever he travels, and he starts him off by saying, Dear Shorty. Okay, when the court date rolled around, I was in San Diego, California, of all places, at my friend's reservation in the hills around Verona, where it snowed on Easter. I raised a beer at a party and pleaded not guilty. The upshot was I had used my get-out-of-jail-free card back in '98. I got to see Cynthia once, then see her again and again for 3 years. I was shipped off to the city jail in Espanola, then Los Alamos because Espanola was overcrowded with heroin tweakers, and the pueblo didn't have its own lockup. At my initial arraignment, it seemed the whole tribal judicial system turned out. There was a 2-man, 1-woman team of prosecutors, the judge, a bailiff, a judge's assistant, a court reporter, tribal cops, Los Alamos city cops who had transferred me to court in a van, and secretaries wandering about. The white judge, who wore a black leather vest and turquoise rings and had his silver hair pulled back in a ponytail. Maybe this qualified him as indigenous, but he looked more Harley than honorable. I said 10 years ago we would go to the ends of the earth to find you, he said, and sentenced me to 6 months in jail for failure to appear with 4 suspended, and set court on the domestic for 2 months off. I spent a furnace-like August and September in Los Alamos with a cellmate from Mexico City. We were in a small 2-prisoner cell with one bleary plexiglass window that said, "Screw nigger" scratched on it diagonally across the middle. I kept wondering if it were a ringing endorsement like "Eat at Joe's" or a racist condemnation. The toilet was so close to the bed you had to turn your head while the other guy took a dump. Other than that, there was just enough room to do push-ups if you wiped down the floor around the commode. With no books or magazines other than the Bible or the monthly Watchtower, there was plenty of time to think, write, or draw. The only problem was you had to yell CO to get a guard come and sharpen the little yellow scoreboard pencils. It took a few weeks, but I finally read the Bible front to back. I reckon I understood a great deal of it, but it wasn't what I'd expected in some places. I jotted a note to Shorty, albeit in a less enthusiastic tone than I had written to him from Santa Fe. Dear Shorty, well, they finally caught up with me in New Mexico, like Migzo said they would. I'm writing from the unfriendly confines of the jail in Los Alamos. I don't know if I ever told you, but I had an old warrant here. Anyway, I've got a court date in October, and I'll find out then. Hopefully they'll give me time served, and I'll be out. Don't be surprised if I'm knocking on your door pretty soon. I hope you are laying off the Kentucky Deluxe, but if not, drink one for me. I signed it, your son, high and dry in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Cynthia wrote that when she drove from Santa Fe to see me, they wouldn't let her in because she was wearing shorts. I might have incited a riot, ha. She said the state had retaken custody of Diane, but Nathan was doing fine. The only visit I got was from a tribal defender who said he had good news and bad news. The good news was that the ex wouldn't be testifying because she had moved out of state and they couldn't find her. The bad news was that the tribal prosecutors had picked up the case. They had our old statements, my tape-recorded drunken confession, video, photographs, and other affidavits to work with. If I was lucky and wrote a good enough letter of apology and pleaded no contest, I might be released on time served. He said if I pleaded not guilty, I would, without question, be returned to jail anywhere from 6 months to a year, awaiting trial depending on the judge's mood. There would be no bond because I had left the state and not shown up the first time. This judge especially did not like that. They're all over this like ants on a cupcake, he told me. Yours is the only case you have right now and that they can really sink their teeth into. Of course, it didn't help going to the West Coast 10 years ago. So I spent the remaining weeks artfully crafting an insincere letter of apology, trying to show off my vocabulary and insinuating that I wasn't just another common criminal off the street. Stuff like, it is with much chagrin and embarrassment that I compose these words of sorrow to you today, Your Honor. I apologize to you, the court, the alleged victim, and to the whole Pueblo for my inebriated and regrettable actions that fateful night some 10 years ago. Atop my bunk, I read the lines back to Fernando lying underneath me. He resumed humming his Mexican ballad as they shut down the lights a level, not ever off, just lower. At my place in Exodus, the river Nile had turned to blood and goggle-eyed bullfrogs were bombarding Egypt in torrents. Coming down in the van for court, I was astounded how the fire had decimated the land. That time of year, aspen and cottonwoods would be changing color, with brittle maroon, lavender, and peach-colored leaves fluttering against a turquoise sky. Instead, it was gray and colorless, with monotonous stands of chalk-white trunks angling down steep slopes, ash upon ash, a mountainous holocaust. Again, I was shocked by the number of people in the courtroom for what I believed to be a Mickey Mouse kangaroo clusterfuck of proceedings. But I played the apologetic, reformed offender role to an Academy Award-winning T, bowing my head sorrowfully, shuffling my feet, frowning, saying in soft, subordinate tones, "Yes, sir. No, sir. Pardon me." How did I plea? I glanced at my defender, who winked. "No contest, Your Honor." The same Harley-Davidson-looking judge sliced open my apology letter with a pocket knife and gave a speed read up and down, front and back, 3 brown sheets of Big Chief notebook paper. Never even blinked. I thought he would have read it admiringly weeks ago. He tossed it aside like junk mail. "Mr. Coolwater, it's obvious to me that you are a bright young man, but one attempting to pull the wool over this court. A no contest plea puts the onus on me, and while your plea is neither an admission of nor denial of guilt, you, sir, are guilty. Yes, you may be sorry for getting caught. I'm sentencing you to 5 years in the Indian Detention Center, suspending 4 on the condition of good behavior, and another legitimate letter of apology, this time without your attempts at artistic hocus pocus. Good luck." I left New Mexico for Keams Canyon, Arizona,